Cowboys need to start to think about the future. Cooper Rush, backup quarterback perennially. He is a free agent. Do the Cowboys need to go ahead and draft Dak's replacement?
No, there's no one in this draft that they can find that's going to replace Dak. That's better in 5-6 years. Even Shador, even Cam Ward. Look, we talk about Dak sometimes in a bad light, like he's not a top 10 quarterback. Look, I understand the struggles he's had in the playoffs, but when you look at this draft class, like the top two are Shador Sanders and Cam Ward. And the Cowboys don't have enough ammo for that. And we talk about drafting a quarterback for the Cowboys. You just lost your all-pro guard, Zach Martin. Yeah. You're worried about the quarterback position? A guy in Dak Prescott, when healthy, who finished second in MVP voting 2 years ago. Yes, struggled in the playoff game, got embarrassed against the Green Bay Packers. Not a great playoff record. But there's so many other holes to fill in your team. And, like, this class of guys, like, I would imagine they're going to draft a guy in the middle rounds, like a Will Howard or a Dylan Gabriel or a Callum McCord, that can develop under Dak, but then he helps them mold their franchise. And when I talk about that, I mean, like, the middle draft guys, they're not going to be started. Now, Dak was a fourth-round pick, and he played right away as a rookie. There's no one like Dak was out of Mississippi State in this class.
How do you say that with confidence, Chase?
Right. I've seen the tape.
Say that with confidence.
I just did. I just said it with confidence. Dak was a fourth-round pick.
Right.
But I'm telling you, with the second Dak stepped on the field as a Dallas Cowboy in the game against Seattle in preseason, if you remember that, when Tony Romo got hurt, you were like, man, this guy's got it.
He's got it. We don't know what it is, but he got it.
I'm telling you, by the time the Dallas Cowboys get to draft a quarterback, you're not going to – it's a perennial backup. You're going to have a guy – under a salary and then able to – why do you look like that?
I vehemently disagree with you for two reasons.
Okay.
Let's look at the NFC East alone. When the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, he was not supposed to replace Carson Wentz.
No, he wasn't.
He was not. He was a second-round pick who was a gadget guy. If y'all remember, Jalen Hurts' first 2 games, he was inactive. His third game, I'm taking y'all all the way back. His third game, he got snaps at wide receiver. Those were his plays. By his fourth game, he was finally active, got a couple snaps in at quarterback. Finally, by week 13, Jalen Hurts made his debut against the New Orleans Saints. And before you know it, 2 years later, he's in the Super Bowl. 5 years later, he's won a Super Bowl as the Super Bowl MVP. Jalen Hurts was not drafted to be Carson Wentz's replacement, but he did it. Dak Prescott was not drafted. I was there in 2016 working for the Cowboys, mind you, when he got drafted. Dak wasn't drafted to be Romo's replacement. Like Chase has alluded to, and he said it very wisely, Dak was drafted in the 4th round. We thought Romo was going to be okay off that back injury. Yeah. He wasn't. Dak ends up playing well. Cowboys, to Chase's credit, Cowboys had a much more complete roster, much more complete roster. Dak didn't have to do a ton. He had 23 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He got an MVP vote. Again, taking y'all back to 2016. I do think you got to draft Dak's replacement because Jalen Hurts, NFC quarterback, Dak Prescott, NFC quarterback, they were never drafted to be the replacements, but they became the replacements. Dak got a hamstring injury that is unforeseen and unknown. We don't know how bad it is because he completely ripped it off the bone. That doesn't happen often. 2 years prior, Dak Prescott broke his thumb. The year before that, Dak Prescott had a calf injury. The year before that, Dak Prescott broke his leg. Why do we know the name Cooper Rush? Because Dak always gets hurt. With all due respect or with all due disrespect to the facts of the situation. So you got to prepare for a replacement because the Q be getting hurt. A hamstring that's off the bone, a thumb on your throwing finger, a calf as a quarterback you got to push off of it. Chase taught me that. And then you broke your leg. These aren't those small little boo-boo to fool injuries. Yeah. These legit injuries. So to me, Chase, that's why I'm looking at you like that because you have to draft his replacement. Because relationships start how relationships end. Relationships end how relationships begin. Dak's relationship began with the Cowboys being drafted, not necessarily as a replacement, but he was.
I mean,
and I think that's how
there's bigger holes around that.
I agree with that.
If you go into this draft, and I'll let you guys go, it's the last thought. If you go into this draft as Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and Will McClay, who is helping them run the whole draft pretty much. He's like the draft guru. If you go into this draft and you say, I am going to find Dak Prescott's replacement. Dak is going into year 9. Okay? Injury history or not, he's going to be he's making $60 million a year. If you go in and you waste a 3rd-round pick on maybe Kyle McCord, I think Kyle McCord actually from Syracuse, the old Ohio State quarterback. And he doesn't pan out. You know how many, like, good defensive tackles or offensive tackles or receivers or skill positions or so many or running back that they need? You do not need Dak's replacement right now. You need other pieces in their scheme to make them better. And by drafting Dak's replacement, it's going to be a wasted draft pick because these guys, in my opinion, they don't have it.
But wouldn't you suggest 2-5 and James? Again, it's hard for me to agree with Chase after seeing what the Eagles did with Jalen. When the Eagles drafted Jalen, I was thinking to myself, what in God's name are y'all doing? Carson Wentz is the only quarterback in the history of football to have 4,000 yards passing with no 500-yard wide receiver. Carson Wentz done kept this team afloat when this team had nothing.
No doubt.
Team had no receivers. Shout out to Greg Ward, a former Houston quarterback, was leading the Eagles at receiver in like the 2018 season. Team had nothing outside of Zach Ertz. And they drafted Jalen Hurts with a second-round pick.
He was coming off an injury.
I'm thinking to myself, this is asinine.
Carson Wentz is coming off that ACL.
Yeah, 17.
Yes.
You got hurt.
ACL.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be the wisest thing you could suggest the Eagles have done in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Smartest thing the Dallas Cowboys has done for the franchise. You guys are speaking the same language. You're not drafting as a replacement, but you protecting the franchise. The most important position on a football team is the backup quarterback. The Eagles' backup quarterbacks came in and won football games, right? The Packers' backup quarterback came in and won football games. Drafting somebody replacements, that's Patty Mahomes, all right? Alex Smith, Patty's here, all right? Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, we don't know how long he'll play, but this kid's in the first round. Eventually, he's going in that football game. That's a replacement. Dak Prescott, like you said, wasn't a replacement. Jalen Hurts wasn't a replacement. But when you have an injury-prone quarterback in front of you, you want to protect the franchise and have a guy that can come in and play good football. And surprise, surprise, he could come in and be better than your starter, and you end up in the dang Super Bowl twice with a Super Bowl win and a Super Bowl MVP, right? Dak Prescott came in, he wasn't a replacement, but he came in and played well. And you can say whatever you want, but the Dallas Cowboys been good for a long time. At least in the regular season, they've been relevant, 12-12-12, winning the division and all that with Dak Prescott because you drafted him in the 4th round. Please do something smart. I'm not saying Dak's going to get hurt again, but protect yourself. Get somebody better than Cooper Rush, and he can come in there, and he might be your franchise quarterback. You never know.
Correct. That's my thing is, like, when Dak Prescott got drafted to the Cowboys, they didn't know he would be this.
No.
I drafted in the 4th round. I don't even, after the 3rd round, I turn the TV off of the draft picks. And Dak became a starting quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I mean, real with you.
Really good.
So let's talk about this. The issue I have with the Cowboys is we keep coming back to the same point. Should we do this for Dak? This Dak. He's the real issue here. They should have been drafted somebody. And you know what? And my mom always told me, man, LaShawn, you go on places in life. Well, she was right. She said, when people show you who they are, believe it. When people show you their habits, they keep doing over and over and over again, and think they're going to do something different. No, believe who they are. When I first meet you and you come up a certain way, I believe that. All Dak has done in the 9 years he's been with the Cowboys is give you 2 playoff wins. And we keep asking, is he the guy? And then it gives you that, right? And then you make him the highest paid quarterback of all time. Tell me how that makes sense.
It don't.
He don't win in the playoffs. He don't win in this big-time football. Because I don't care about the regular season. I see a lot of great players in the regular season. It matters about in the playoffs. That's why we give all the praise to the Patrick Mahomes and the Joshua, because they take their team to the playoffs and they play well. I can't say the same for Dak. So we asked me, should they draft his replacement? They should have been did that. The Cowboys will always be in a bad situation when number 4 is at the quarterback.
Bad playoff situation.
Yeah, because
No. They won't go far with him. You know why? Do you know why I keep saying that? Because I've watched it. I watched this team because you're going to talk about how the team has so many holes. That's what you're going to say, right?
No.
And you're right. No, you're right. They do have holes.
No.
I watched this team when they had the top tier rosters in football. 2 to 3 years, they had the best roster in football. And what did he give you?
Playoff.
He choked. He didn't have a bad game. He lost the game for him.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to keep saying it's like I'm coming at Dak. I'm just saying when I watch football and I watch this team with all these great players, and when you lead the troops, and every time y'all get to a big game, a big moment against a big team, you the one that chokes, and you the one why they lose.
Why do you have...
You ain't telling no lies.
Yeah,
I'm being honest.
But why do you have such a big problem with Dak? Because...
I just told you why.
I'm talking. Because when you look at Dak, and you say he only has 2 playoff wins, right? He's 2-5. That's pretty bad, right?
Ain't good.
They ain't good. It ain't good at all, right? And embarrassing losses at that. San Francisco, Green Bay. But then you go to Lamar Jackson. We don't talk about Lamar Jackson like that. Now, Dak has not won MVP, but Lamar Jackson's playoff record's 3-5. He's averaging less total yards a game. He's averaging less total touchdowns a game, and he's got more turnovers than Dak. But yet Dak gets all the hate Why?
I don't think
Because
hold on.
because in the playoffs, right?
yeah.
Because Lamar Jackson, we have this conversation at nauseum once Lamar lost in the playoffs, right? Lamar's only been to one AFC Championship game. Dak's been to none. He's been to a couple divisional games. So, like, I just all I'm saying, and I don't want this to turn into a Lamar Jackson conversation. All I'm saying is Dak